What's up, everybody? I actually accomplished the impossible last night. I actually got on the Norman Hobbs show. He never lets any. The only Jews, as far as I know, that have ever gotten on that show are Brittany from Politically Provoked, and she has a whole fucking channel and shit. I don't have shit, so I'm surprised they got on there, but they wanted to tell me off or whatever. But I found this a little perplexing. Norvin says, you know, I don't understand why Jews would fucking watch this show, which to me seems woefully unaware. Like, when I came across shows like this, it kind of blew my mind. Like, I didn't know people. I mean, I guess I'm naive, but I didn't know people like this existed. Like, people that have dedicated shows, dedicated life to anti-Jewish advocacy. So if somebody hates you and is dedicating their whole life to you, how would you not be intrigued by that? I mean, maybe horrified. I would think most people would be horrified and scared. Like, a lot of Jews would be scared about this. It would worry them. It would bother them. But me, I mean, maybe a little bit. But I was more intrigued. Like, how do people get to this stage? So to me, that just seems woefully unaware that somebody would think that, especially when you study the subject so much. I don't know. But I get value out of talking to these people too. Like, am I a little sick? Maybe, but the best way to understand someone is actually sit down and have a conversation with them. So basically what they're spreading is the idea that Jews are an evil people. They blame them for anything evil that's ever happened. Recently, that was the Armenian genocide, the Greek genocide in Turkey. Just, it's like they list off a whole bunch of events. And then when I went on here, I wish I recorded it. I fucked up because I'm boomer tech, but Jews are responsible for dismantling South Africa and apartheid. The same guy who says Jews are responsible for the slave trade. So it's like, wait, they're wrong for the slave trade because they were oppressing them, but then they were evil because they fought for the rights of the people who were oppressed under apartheid. It's like picking two sides of this, two different sides of the coin, and holding them responsible for both, for being oppressors and then also being social justice warriors. And by the way, the whole world pretty much had embargoed South Africa at that point. Like, I don't even know which countries, but it must have been the majority of the Western world. Actually, I think one of their closest allies was Israel. They cooperated on a nuclear weapons program, including a nuclear weapons test. So that's just an interesting caveat. But I just thought this lack of insight was surprising. It's like, why wouldn't you be intrigued or interested or something? I mean, if somebody hates white people and they're an anti-white advocate and you're white, I would think you would want to understand, like, what makes this motherfucker tick? Like, I actually did go on stream with some whacked out black dude who was just like really anti-white, would go off on white people, and it actually kind of pissed me off. So I went into his show. Just another ridiculous personality online, but it did intrigue me and piss me off. You know what I mean? So I enjoyed talking to these people and battling with them, but also actually, I'll put this in quotation marks, having a constructive criticism with them. because in any conversation, to actually get real information, it can't be adversarial, right? Like police interrogations, they don't just go in there and say, "Tell me everything you know, motherfucker." Like, they actually sit down, develop some rapport, get the guy some coffee, right? Like, they brought Dylan Roof to Burger King. It's like, what can I do for you? Like, yeah, I want to know about why you did this, why you think this, whatever. It's actually been one of the most enlightening and fun things in a weird way that I've ever done. Because if not for the internet, never would have come across people like this. So I never would have understood what they think. And now I'm like somewhat of a subject matter expert in a minor way about these people. So I found it to be very intriguing. I've talked about like a little bit why they believe what they do, but their argumentation consists of basically going throughout history, picking events, cherry picking Jews that are somehow involved in those events or tangentially involved in those events, and trying to put the onus on them. I mean, you could do the same thing for white people, for every historical event or other people. They rely on that. They rely on misrepresentations. They say the Hanukkah and Purim are genocides, which I'm not experts in those events, but they were military victories. So you got cherry picking, you got misrepresentation. That's what Holocaust denialists say. That's a misrepresentation. To say that the Jews faked their own genocide. You have, I don't know what you would call this, but saying it's an injustice that there's this huge Holocaust museum in Washington, D.C., but only something small dedicated to victims of communism. I would say that's a false comparison, right? Because while in total there were more victims of communism, well, the Holocaust was a directed genocide against one people. That explains the outsized attention and the fanaticism involved and the ideology. So to just compare total numbers is a misrepresentation and kind of an obtuseness. And then the other strategy of argumentation is, I don't know what I would call this, maybe false equality, false inequality. There's got to be a better way to term this, but, open borders for Israel. How come Israel doesn't have open borders? Jews are supremacists. They blah, blah, blah. Well, I mean, you're talking about a people with a completely different situation in history. So that's why they would have that. And other countries have the complete right to control their borders. So that's not Israel's doing. Trying to think what else I should say on this topic. Yeah, I said, okay, you guys are concerned about Jews having too much influence in the world, and yet you're spending every night talking about Jews for hours on end. Like, do you think that's giving them more influence in your world or less? This, I think, was a really good point they didn't really have an answer to. I guess they don't care. It's for a good purpose, they probably think. It's like if you had an ex, right? And you didn't get along, you had a bad breakup. If you're sitting years after that breakup and talking about your ex for hours on end, maybe even 10, 20 hours a week. Like, who's getting the best of you? Your ex or you? Like, who's in the better situation? Your ex is, moved on. So it's just psychologically unhealthy. Anyway, I don't know. Just rambling about this experience and my thoughts. Like all of my other rambly videos. Anyway, everyone have a good day.